Alright, I'm going over just some of the pictures that I was able to take when I was helping out in Bethel Acres, just a little ways west of Shawnee, was where the first tornado hit before the big one in Oklahoma City, Moore area on May 20th, I believe. This first picture, that big yellow arrow, is the path of the tornado, if you couldn't have guessed that. And that white circle, I'll get to that, but keep that in mind. That's got to do with one of the pictures. So, this first one here with, see those trucks on the left? That's, the tornado went right through that area. You can see that chain link fence just bowed over. And, you know, it's weird because these tornadoes, man, they'll leave that chain link fence, but they'll move a trailer home that weighs like 1.5 tons. And some of that, it just didn't make sense. And then you can see all the debris along the property lines back out there. What I was doing, basically a lot of what I did was help cut up the wood, like those trees. Some of them, those ones, well, we'd already cut down most of them, but stuff that had just been mangled by the wind, we just cut them down because they were dead anyway. And to leave them up, they just would have rotted and fallen on somebody's new home. So a lot of what we did, a lot of what me and these other two guys did, was just cut limbs and then cut up the sections of the trees into manageable sizes, move them into piles, and then other people would go through and just set them on fire. This next picture, you got that red car. That somehow weathered the storm. You can see a couple more trees there towards the left that are just mangled up. They still need to be cut down. But just the piles of debris. It was, man, you can see one big pile there just to the left of the center, a big one kind of in the background. We were working on adding to that, and then we were just going to take a match to it because there was just too much debris to take it to a landfill. It would have taken weeks, if not months. This one, it was on the other side of the street from where the tornado was, but you can see the sheer force of the tornado. It just pulled siding right off, and I don't know how there is still glass in that house. There are trailers that were even further away from the tornado that lost all their glass, all the windows, the doors. They had nothing, no roof, anything. And you can see the tree in front of their house also needs to be cut down. Looks like somebody whittled on it with a cheese grater. Next picture is just, man, when I first got there, I just walked up and down that main street, just kind of surveying the whole thing, and this is where a lot of these pictures came from. It was man, there's not really many good words for it. Just a lot of broken homes. In this picture, the you know, I know about the rule of threes with photography, so it's an accident, and it looked like I was taking a picture of these two outhouses, so bear with me. But if you look down a little bit towards the bottom of the picture, you'll see a couple of massive I-beams that used to be straight. It was just the sheer force of the wind that bent them around like that. And those are all over the debris, man. Those I-beams like that, it is insane. And then behind the outhouses, you see just more trees just leaning over. That's the stuff we got to cut down in piles and piles of debris. It's just mountains, man. Like what should be dirt is just where people used to live. This picture, I think that's a hot water heater that's just laying there on the ground on a lot where a trailer used to sit that got sucked up by the wind. And just more debris. We don't even know whose property is whose. Like, we had to talk to the property owners before we could do anything on the lot as far as like cutting trees down and stuff. But man, looking for belongings, It was a crapshoot. We had to cover 85 trailer homes worth of stuff just because it could have gone anywhere. This picture, man, that's just the view from anywhere. Once you start getting your hands dirty, walking around, finding something to do, that's about all you see. It's just stuff. Man, it's unsettling, to say the least. And this picture, these are the kind of trees especially that we focused on cutting up, just primarily so people could get past them to try and look for their valuables. Man, these trees just bent over like that, they're in the way. So, us guys with chainsaws were pretty popular folks. Oh, this house, man, this steel barn. This was a heartbreaker. You can see my chainsaw is the red Dolmar, and the other guys that I was working with, he had that 20-inch Husqvarna above mine. But man, yeah, we got stuck cutting up that wall, and then a couple of the big sections of wall, like those pieces of plywood, just so other people could sift through there. This older lady, man, this story was a heartbreaker, because she was just an older widow, man. She had this barn, and then she had a trailer, I don't even know where, because it ain't there anymore. But somebody that had been talking to the owner of this stuff, she came up because she saw that we had chainsaws, and she asked us to cut some of this stuff out so they could keep digging through the rubble. Because all this older lady wanted was like a big green tote or basket or something that just had pictures of her late husband, pictures and medals and awards and stuff, because he was in the armed forces. I forget which branch. And once we got done cutting stuff up, we looked around for it, and we couldn't find it, because, like I said, man, God only knows where most of this stuff ended up. And this next picture, that's you see those marks at the bottom of the picture in the ground? Something was embedded pretty deep in the ground, and as you can see, it took quite a bit to move it. I forget just how powerful this tornado was, just because the one the next day really took the headlines. But man, you can see it was a pretty stout, beefy little tornado. It meant business. And this next picture, you see like one of the piles of wood that we started making, and then just all the rest of the wood back on the other side of that white truck. Had to just cut that up and move it to piles, hoping we'd find whatever it was people were looking for. And then this one, man, this was one of the burn piles. It's just, we eventually got some heavy machinery in there to start consolidating piles, and that made it a lot easier than just trying to make huge piles of wood by hand. And then we just set it on fire. Man, we segregated the wood and then landfill stuff, like just worthless stuff that we couldn't burn, like tires or whatever else. And then we would set aside metal, like scrap metal stuff we could recycle or sell, and then just take the money back around to supporting these people. There was an off-duty Oklahoma City police officer that was actually part of doing that, the scrap metal program. And some of the local cops actually arrested him because they said he was looting. And I never did hear how that ended up, but I assume they just went down to the station and cleared things up that way. Because it was, man, those people, you spend 2 minutes with them, you find out they're not there for themselves. This one, you see a pile of metal that we set aside, just waiting for somebody to come by with a trailer and pick up. And then you see beside that, you got some stones on the ground. but no trailer. I don't know how none of those bricks really got moved. Man, like I said, tornadoes are a funny thing. They almost seem biased in what they pick up. And behind those two cars that tried to weather the storm, I don't mind the dogs, you see more wood, more trees. And some of those fires, man, when I got there, they were going. And the way it was explained to me was some of that stuff just combusted, like these things would just get slammed up against something else, a gas leak or a spark or whatever, and it would just explode. And some of the fires were from that because, as you can tell by those trees, we weren't done cutting on them. But there was still a fire right there. And then this picture, we got some heavy machinery there. There on the right you can see some metal and stuff waiting to be picked up. And some volunteers. I was only there for a day and a half because I had to work around my job. But every single person there was emphatic about, man, any help's good help. And you can see one tractor. The first day I was there, the Saturday, there was just a handful of heavy machinery. And then the cops ended up having to kick most of them out because they were trying to send these people a bill. And those people should have gotten kicked out. That's a scummy thing to do. The next day, though, there was like 15 tractors and stuff that showed up just to help out. That was awesome. This picture, we can see some cleanup underway. We see bags of stuff, like some organization, a tote right there, and a little pile of possible valuables, and then a stack of bricks or rocks or whatever there on the right. And then, obviously, another fire that just happened because you can tell we weren't done cutting down trees in that area. This picture, remember that white circle? Well, it's kind of a crappy picture, but you can see a white cross there in the background right beside the shovel on that lot. One of the guys I was working with told me that that was where one of the guys died. It was, I don't know if he was just older and didn't hear the sirens or what was going on, but he was just chilling in his trailer when the tornado came through. And this was on the other side of the street from where the tornado was. But he was just in his mobile home, and the mobile home started going up off the ground with him in it. I don't even know, I think they found the guy, but he had no heartbeat. There was a few of them. Over on the other side of that blue truck, up towards the top left, on the other side of that debris, I think, from what my buddy was telling me, that was where they found another dead body, where they recovered another one after I'd left, because that was pretty close to where we were cutting up some of the wood. This picture, I was so excited to have this one incorporated. That little girl is the daughter of one of the guys I was working with. It was a family thing for him to bring everybody out to help out, and there was a pretty cool crew. But we had walked quite a ways down through these estates, and then we started turning around because we hadn't talked to owners beyond a certain point, so we couldn't do anything. So when we turned around, we started going back a different way, back towards all the relief tents. And we saw a guy here. You see a jack there by the back tire. He had it jacked up, and he was taking the lug nuts off of that back tire. So I go up to him, and we're like, "Hey, you got a flat, man? You need some help?" So he stops what he's doing, and he gets up from on his knees and sizes up me and this other guy. He's like, "Yeah, I was just trying to replace this spare so I can drive off here and go home." And he said it with a stone face, man. I should have shaken his hand. But that was the spirit of a lot of these people. You know, I mean, they just accept that where they live is a risk. And some people say they ain't never coming back to that area. And some people are like, well, I'll take what I still have and rebuild. And that was this guy's mentality. And you could tell he wasn't too broken, just set back. And that was one thing that was really admirable about a lot of these people. Then, pictures of the volunteer sites. We had, you can see some clouds there in the background. We had rain off and on throughout. So there was volunteers that were always kind of on standby, ready to cover stuff up, cover up supplies. We had all kinds of supplies. Just everything. Dog supplies, baby supplies, food, shoes, clothes, water, Gatorade, food. So much food. My goodness. But this crew here, that lady standing over there, she was one of my go-to people, one of the people that set me up with coming out there to begin with. And she was saying, let's see, I showed up early Saturday afternoon. She was saying they had 1,000 hot dogs and like 800 or 1,000 hamburgers, and they had guys just taking shifts grilling for people, grilling for the volunteers. And then there was people like on four-wheelers and ATVs that would just drive up and down with plates of food, just handing them out. And it was awesome how everybody just found their niche. You know, I mean, nobody was competing, everybody was just working together. It's almost like this. Jesus had something to say about working like that. But that was one food site, and that was where a lot of the supplies were for the people that got displaced by these storms. And this picture is another one. I think that green tent was the Army Corps of Engineers, and that trailer is still full of water on top of the stacks and stacks that they have right there. And then the white tent beside them, they were making food for people. Everybody found something to do there. And this next picture, that's just another angle of those, well, obviously of the blue tarps from 2 pictures ago. And what that white sign says: please stop and take what you and your family need. And they were so generous, man. They didn't put any limits on anything, and people were just being so thoughtful and generous, just taking what they needed in case somebody else needed more. But Sunday when I left, the chick that was in charge of these supplies under the tarps, she was like, man, we got 3 more semi-trucks coming today, and I don't know where they're going to go. I don't know what I'm going to do with all of that stuff. And that's a good problem to have. But it was still, some of those people, I think they could have taken more to wherever they were staying. But whatever. And this sign here, you can see my Dolmar chainsaw there at the bottom. You see the bar of it. Just that sign, that was a good one. Thank you for your support. I found out when we were on our way to cut down the tree that was right behind the truck. And I had to take a picture of it because that really was the mentality of a lot of those people. They weren't angry about what happened. They were just grateful that so many people stepped up to help. And I thought that was pretty cool. They weren't holding a grudge against nature. They were just accepting what happened.